And then from there, I was able to get the job. I find that design challenges are what they do a lot early on in your career, because the last two jobs I've had, I've not had to do a design challenge, because by that time your work starts speaking for itself. That you don't need to do a design challenge to prove yourself anymore. But when you're early on, because like what company have you worked for to do something? You haven't quite done that yet. So they want to see how you can design for their company, essentially.
So when they start talking to you about, like the process, do you use your website, or do you have something separate to show?
Yeah, I will pull up my website and like go to projects that I know that I can speak very in depth on, like some of the projects that I just didn't really care about, and like early on when I was in school that I just didn't fully care about. I knew I was not going to talk about those. So pick a project that you know you can talk through, and it was super successful and it was very thought-provoking. There was a whole process as to why you did it. That's one project you should already have to speak to. Another project is one that was a challenge, like what was something that you had to overcome in this design process, or this creative process, or getting it to the deadline, things like that. What was the challenge and how you overcame it? It should be like a positive spin on the challenge that you faced. So like sometimes when I talk about my work now, it's like I had a lot of deadlines going on, and this is how I did it. This is how I did my time management. This is what I ended up focusing on, and this is how I did it. Stuff like that. It's what was the problem and what was your solution? And talk about like the outcome that came from it. And I think it's also just kind of have the projects that you know are in the realm of things that you like. I'll always talk about packaging projects. It's the thing, it's my bread and butter.
Yeah.
Visual merchandising is something I'm new in, but packaging I can always go to because I know it really well. So I think it's just having those projects in there that are going to like back you up on the things that you're going to have to talk about.
So you don't have anything else but the website to pull out of your sleeve, sort of?
Yeah, because all my interviews have been Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had any in-person interviews since COVID. So as of right now, from me and my experience, it's all been online. And it's just been like, I'll like screen share my portfolio and like walk through it and like click on it. Like I have a picture of the project and like it's final of what it looked like. And then when you go in, it's like a breakdown of like, here's my mood board and where I started. Here's kind of like where I was in the gist of it. This is like my options, the things that I started thinking and for like ideating and stuff like that. Here's how I got to the final part. And then I just talk through like anything else that stood out in the process to get me there. I think it's really sorry. I think it's really important to show start to finish and like how you got there.
Yeah. Sorry. I think that the one of the big points here, perhaps, in when you present your work in that manner, you are showing the finished thing first, and then you're breaking it down to show how you got there.
Yeah.
And it's in a logical way. That would be the other point. It's not just haphazard jumping around, but it's a very logical, sequential way. But to get to, okay, this is the thing. How'd you do this? And then,
yeah. Because I think a lot of my work right now, it's a lot of like visual merchandising for Sephora, or it's packaging, and I'll show the final, what it looked like. And then I have a label of what the project was. So one that I've always gotten asked about is my one size gondola that we did with Disney, because it's like a collaboration between two brands, and it's always like very interesting how that worked. So that's always something I can talk to. Or it's like, oh, I did this random packaging for this scrub or whatever. I can break you through how we got to this final product. I think design is a lot about like what it looks like, but it's also about the process that it took to get there. And that's, I think, the differentiation between designers is just what their process is, how they work, how they'll fit within the way that that company's department is structured. It's really important.
So I was going to ask you a different question, but since the way you're talking now, I'm going to ask you if you can do something for us, and if you can't, that's fine. But can you share your as if we were interviewing you? And can you share your screen and let's say walk us through one project? Can you do
No
that?
pressure.
Yeah. I mean, if you can do that, that'd be great. If you can't, just tell us you can't.
What project do I want to do? Um, I'm gonna do this one. Since I am a visual merchandising designer now. It fits. Okay, so this project right here was with One Size. This is my first full gondola design from start to finish, and I'm going to walk you through it. So in February, oh my God, it's not in here. Okay, I'll have to choose one that's actually like in here. Oh, this is in here. Okay, we'll do the bite trend. This one was a fun project. Okay, so I feel like in an interview, the person would ask me, can you walk us through a project that you owned from start to finish, or something that you had a lot of control in? And this would be my example. This is one that I also do actually love talking about, because it's the first project that I ever owned solo in my design career. So it holds like very special to me. So this is the Bite Beauty tin that we did for a limited edition collection. This was the first project that I had full ownership on from start to finish. So going through kind of the mood board, the concepting, the overall like marketing, how we were going to market it in stores, what this was going to be as a product. I got to be really involved in that. So as we are here, this is kind of the mood board that I worked with the marketing team on cross-functionally. And we really wanted this to be a little bit different than what Bite normally comes out with. Bite is always in like a linen paper box, and we wanted this to be something that was you could keep because it is limited edition. So we wanted to put it in a metal tin. So we knew that going in, but we knew we also wanted it to be fun, play to the time that it was launching in. So this was kind of like the mood concept that we came out with. This is like a mood board of the type of material that we wanted. So we're kind of getting the vibe that we wanted it to shine, but what was the material that was going to get us there? We knew we wanted to play on the brand colors that we already had, but we're open to expanding into some other colorways since this, again, is limited edition. So from this mood board, we started working on concepts, designs. As we all know, Bite is known for their lip as an icon. It's very much a brand moment for them. So we wanted to still have an ownable brand moment, but also something just fun. And since we were doing a reusable tin, and this also has to be shoppable in store, we knew we had to put a UPC on it. So we did that via a sleeve that was going to wrap around the tin. And when we were in the sampling phases, this is kind of, I guess, the condensed version that we got to. We were going to explore a plain version, the shimmer that we all really loved in the concept stage, and then playing on the lip idea. And these were the samples that we got back. We were exploring different colorways and options. And this was where we at first. And then as we ended up landing on design, we ended up going with the lip feature. So it was important for me to get this ready for print and preparation. So I did all production artistry work on this, which involved plugging everything into the die line as well as the tin metal, and then also working with our production artist team to reconstruct the entire sleeve. So a lot of work went into this to get it to where it is now. And I don't have like the next slide that I would normally have, which would show like the render of the finished thing. But yeah, this did come up with a lot of design challenges. We knew in sampling that the sleeve ended up being too big from what the vendor ended up giving us. So we ended up re-engineering it on our own. And that's how we got to this final piece up here. We were working with tin, which meant that colors could be skewed because it's just a different substrate and material. So when we were get sampling, we were also working on re-engineering and reformulating the color that we were going to select. But overall, I'm very excited about this project. It was very special to me as it was the first project in packaging that I did that ended up in stores at Sephora. So it always holds a special place in my heart. Yeah.
So with
Walking
the,
through.
thank you for doing that. and me
Yeah,
putting you on
I'm
the
not sure
spot.
that's like as accurate as I would do it, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay. So, as far as the staying on brand, were there any, I mean, you mentioned color quite a bit there, I think. Were there any, other brand considerations that you either changed, added to, or had difficulty adhering to? Was there anything like that related to the brand?
yeah, I think obviously like when you're designing, you go through a lot of phases and a lot of variations and options. But I think as far as Bite Beauty as a brand, they are very clean and minimal. So we always knew we were going to stay that way. I think it was how do we add an element of something different, but it still feel on brand. And that's where like the slight shimmer came in. That's where like the gold stamping on the lips came in of just like something a little different than what we normally do. Yeah, it's a very important, like, I think it's harder when you're presenting things that you worked on in class because you're not associating it with a brand or a company that's out there. You're marketing it for yourself. It's something that you ideated from basically nothing because it's a project and it's what you did for that project. But I think showing how you got to where you got early on in your career is the most important.
Nice, thank you. So, I'm gonna maybe open it up for any other kind of questions. Um,
Yeah, I'll
that you
answer
guys might have.
anything.
Go ahead. You just unmute yourself.
Hi, Joe.
Hi.
Hi, my name's Christy.
Turn your volume down though.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Turn your
You have to mute yourself,
well,
Brett,
mine's
so
up.
that you can talk and then.
Mine is off. You can speak from up here. Yeah.
Hi, Joe.
Hi.
Okay, sorry, real quick.
You're okay.
You had mentioned that you use your website when you submit the resume.
Mhm.
And you said you have a portfolio, but other than your website, is that your only portfolio, or do you use like another website or an app or something for your portfolio?
Yeah, I mainly use my website because they usually ask for websites. Sometimes I've seen them ask for like a PDF. So you'd want like a PDF version of something. And I don't usually do my whole website in the PDF because I just think that's annoying and a lot of work. So I just have like a small little condensed thing. I haven't seen a lot of companies do PDF. It's usually just the link, like you just copy your URL and like put it in the little like job
Okay.
application link section. Sometimes when I see companies ask for a PDF, I don't even apply because it's really annoying.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing that I would say. I printed out my entire book portfolio in school and I've never updated it.
Yeah.
since.
So do you feel like having a LinkedIn and a Instagram account and like a Behance account, like all this stuff is just extra? You don't really need it when you do
I
that?
only have a LinkedIn and a portfolio.
That's it. Okay. Yeah, I think that was my question. I do have like one question
Ask
other
anything.
than that.
I'll answer
So
whatever.
you said you've been to 3 different companies since COVID.
Mhm.
That's a big turnaround. So
Yeah, so my first role, I was laid off because of COVID.
okay.
So that was the first one. The second company went bankrupt.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so a lot of it was not my choice.
Okay, because then my follow-up question to that was like, how do you know when it's time to move on? But you didn't really have a choice. You had to move on.
Yeah,
because-
those two I didn't have a choice. My last company, I just switched jobs in August. I was at one size for a year and a half and it was time for me to go. I couldn't do it anymore. That was like when I actually had to learn like when it's time to move on. It's not easy. Which I can go into if you want, but
Yeah, I'd like to know like your insight on when do you feel like as a designer it's time for you to move on? Whether you feel like you've already given what you had versus maybe you're ready for something different because you want to develop your skills, or you just feel like you're not creating like you should be. Like, when do you feel like it's time to move on?
yeah, there's been a few different situations where I felt like that. When I lost my first job during COVID, it was kind of, I had to just keep going. Like, you needed money to survive. So I ended up taking a job as a digital designer. And this was after I was in packaging, which I loved. I loved that role. And now I was in digital design, making like emails, stuff that I just didn't love. And I think for a while I was okay with it because I needed a job. It was COVID, it was scary world. And then once I finally realized that this was not like, I don't want to tailor myself to be a digital designer. That's not where I want my career path to go. I'm early on enough that it's okay to jump because I'm still in like the learning phase. And that's when I was like, let's just start applying. Let's see what's out there. And I ended up finding the job for me, which was a packaging design role. I was back where I wanted to be. I also really found that I loved being in the beauty space. I think there's different aspects to what you need to think about. It's what you're designing. Do you like what you're doing? Do you like where it's going? Do you like the impact of it? Also, the type of company that you're in. Like, do you want to be in tech and be in that world? Do you want to be in beauty and be in that world? Do you want to just be in marketing and work at a marketing agency? I think figuring that out at the same time of what you like to design is really important. And at that time I knew I loved beauty because it just was a space where like I could go into Sephora and see the stuff that I've designed. And that was so cool to me. It was so wild. And I loved that feeling. So I knew I wanted to be back in that. So I found my job at packaging, was back in it, was finally able to develop more. That company went bankrupt. I've had quite a journey. And then after they went bankrupt, we all got laid off. It was like the week before Christmas. It was a whole thing. And it sucked because it was in the middle of COVID too. And I was unemployed for 4 months. Like, sometimes just the job world is not glamorous. It's not easy. It's a struggle. It's a lot of work sometimes. Even for me, who's worked at companies like Kendo, when I was in Ulta and I was in Sephora, I was still unemployed for like 4 months. And that was really hard. And I think I had to stay because there was jobs that I could have taken, but I knew it was not the field that I wanted to go into. Like, I could have taken a digital position or whatever, but I knew if I was going to be picky and I was going to do this, I was going to go into the role that I wanted to go into. That's when I ended up getting the role at One Size as the visual merchandising designer and packaging designer. And for me, I loved it. I loved working on visual merchandising. I loved working on gondolas. I loved working on packaging. It made sense. I loved what I did, that I knew I found the type of role that I wanted to be in, but this time it was the company environment that wasn't for me. So there's a lot of factors, like, is it that you like what you're doing and you want to just switch to something else? I think early on in your career, it's okay to do that because you're experimenting. Like, what do you want to do for like the next 40 years? Like, you don't want to be stuck in the first decision that you made. The next is the type of company. I got lucky that I got to experience beauty early on in my career, and that's where I wanted to stay. But you could do beauty and then you could hop over to tech. You could hop over to brand goods, consumer product goods, things like that. Figuring that out is important. And then I think the biggest thing in the working world is the environment that you're in. It is really important to figure out the work-life balance that you want. It's really important to figure out if the way that the company environment is and it's treating you, is it okay? Do you feel okay? For me, at One Size, it was just very toxic towards the end, and I knew this was not how I wanted to be treated. And it was really hard because I loved what I did. I loved the thing that I was making. I loved the thing that I was designing. And it was really frustrating because I didn't want to leave because I loved that part. But at the end of the day, I knew it wasn't good for my mental health and me as a person. And like, it was just affecting my life. And that's when I realized like, I just needed to leave because I could find being a visual merchandising designer anywhere, but like the environment, I can switch that. It's going to get better. So that's why I ended up switching there. So it's a lot of things to think about, and it seems really intimidating. But I think the fun thing, even though it was really messy when I was younger, like I just got to experiment. I got to play around and I got to do different things and figure out what I liked. So yeah.
Awesome. That was really good information. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody else? Felicity, do you have a question?
I want to know how Felicity's internship was. Are you on? Can you? It's still echoing from yours. Why don't you come up here? Joe, you're making me hungry. I know there's cookies like sitting there staring at me. I had to take a bite. I'm sorry.
That was funny.
We had a really long meeting today, so I'm treating myself to cookies.
Hello again.
Hello.
So my question is, obviously, you know, I was searching for an internship last spring. And it seemed like the trend that I had was, or one of the reasons I got the internship I did is that they had connections to the school. And so like, I guess networking is involved. So how much do you think networking is important when you apply to new jobs, or have you seen a difference?
I would say it's really important. I used to think it wasn't because I was like, oh, whatever, like I'll figure it out. But as I've gotten more in my career, the amount of times like people reach out to me because they're like, hey, I saw you were connected to this person and there's a job posting that I like. Would you be able to vouch for me type of thing? Or like the job that I got after I got laid off, I got it from Christian who went to University of the Pacific. And that's the only reason I got that job was because of that connection. So I would say like networking is really important. Also, when I think beauty, you would think it's a really big world, but it's really small. And it's like every coworker knows another person that I've worked with. And like, it also gets around like what your personality is like. So that's why I always think it's really, really important to like, even if you're struggling, like the connection is going to be great. Like when I left One Size, like I still have connections there, even though I was the one that left. So yeah, I would say it's really important. Networking is important. Yeah.
Okay, so like when I reached out to you, that was like very outside like what I typically do. So how would you recommend someone who usually doesn't do that or is not really comfortable reaching out to people would like network?
Yeah, I would say it's 50-50 if I ever even got some people to respond back to me. And I think sometimes it's not on you, like it's not your fault. It's just that person just doesn't sometimes care or have the time. But I think it's just being yourself and being like, hey, you know, like I'm just starting out. Like when I was unemployed, I reached out to so many people in the beauty industry that were like directors and like VPs of this stuff. And I was like, any chance you want to talk to me and just like tell me how you got to where you got, like blah, blah, blah. People I've like never met before. Like I just cold call, like email, like message them on LinkedIn. I got the premium subscription where I could like message people and they like would get it because I would like paid for it. And it worked. Like I got the VP of marketing at Drunk Elephant to like get on a call with me and just like talk to me about his career path. And like, not that it got me a job or anything, but it just it got me to like learn about somebody and learn about a career. And I just would reach out to anybody. I was like, I just don't care at this point. Like, I'm just going to do it. So, and I think it's important to be yourself because you don't want to just be very robotic with it. Just be like, hey, like, I'm just starting out. I just want to learn. I think it's harder when you're coming at like, you specifically want something out of them. But when you're just like, hey, I just want to learn about your career, like how you got to where you got. I'm really interested in this path. Would you be like willing to talk to me or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it. But yeah.
Someone else? I'm gonna pick on you. Emily, you're my next logical target. Come on up here and ask a question.
Hi, I'm Emily.
Hello.
I heard previously that you went through the process for an internship with Disney when you
Mhm.
were going through trying to figure out a job.
Yep.
And I heard you ended up choosing your other internship because they got back to you faster than Disney did.
Mhm.
Could you talk a little bit about your difference in internship processes between those two?
Yeah, Disney was really wild. I actually had the internship, but then when the girl went on vacation, they took her intern away from her and gave it to a different department. So like that entire internship program just got canceled. And I
Wow.
was just left waiting. So it's really frustrating. But I think because I did an internship, I did digital design for a dating app in San Francisco before my senior year. And then I was debating on interning kind of through my senior year. I think Disney would have been like a semester internship type of thing. And my first internship, I just wanted an internship, like get in the door, get some sort of experience, figure out what that looks like. I don't think I was really picky when I did it because it was my first one. And I was like, let's just do whatever comes my way. I didn't even know what I was interested in. It was like kind of a tech-ish style dating app. So, and it was cool kind of being in the city and like living in the city and doing that internship and picking that.
Can I pause really
and-
quick and ask a follow-up? How long did it take you to get to the point where you knew what you wanted to do?
in my career.
Mhm. Like how many
Um,
internships and jobs and trials did it take for you to?
I would say, how far out of college am I? 4 years out of college. I would say probably last year is when I felt pretty solidified. Like I dabbled in a few things, like I did dating app for tech. I did events for like, what were they? Like big fancy like gala event things. Like I did event design for that. And then I got to do packaging at like a larger corporation. And then I've just done various things, but I think when I was at One Size, which was my last job, I knew I loved BM. I knew I loved being in Sephora. That solidified it for me. I knew I wanted to stay within designing for Sephora because it's so fun. And I knew I loved print. And then I think being at this job now, which is, I think I'm 4.5 years out of college, I know that this is where I want to stay. I see the path ahead of me. Like I know, even though it can get really hectic and really crazy, I don't care because I really like it. But it doesn't mean like the other stuff that I did wasn't fun. Like it was still really cool to say I've done these like really random things, but I'm pretty happy with like staying solidified in this. So
Awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you.
yeah.
I think that's it from me. It was nice meeting you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you too.
Joe, how are you doing for time?
I think I have like 10 minutes. My founder
Okay.
keeps popping in, asking me questions.
Okay, so I'm gonna put one more student on the spot.
Okay.
And then I might have one last little thing. Okay. So let's see. Brianna, do you have a question? Yes, you do. Come on up.
Hi,
Hello.
my name's Brianna. My question would be more towards LinkedIn, because for me, I feel like I don't have much experience to be able to put on there. So what would you recommend doing then?
For not having a lot. Put
Yeah,
on.
like what would you put, I guess, on your LinkedIn just to like at least have something on there? Because the only thing I've really done is working here for ASUOP. And I
I
feel
think
like
that's enough. I feel like when I was at ASUOP, it felt like a job. So like I felt like I was working because it's like you track your hours, you do projects, you do things like that. For me, I tailored ASUOP to feel like it was like its own internship because you kind of are taking clients, you're marketing for somebody, you're designing for somebody, you're seeing a project through. I think that is your first job, first internship. So lean into that. And I think because that was mine, that was my only thing outside of the internship that I did the summer before senior year. Those are the only two experiences that I had. And they weren't even tailored in packaging, and it still got me interviews at Disney. So I don't think it needs to be this perfect tailored thing right off the bat because it's just not going to be. And I think once you kind of manage that expectation for yourself, then you can be like, okay, I'm going to lean into this. I'm going to lean into ASUOP. Let me, refine any designs that you've done that you're like, let me just tweak it so it's a little better to show. That's what I would portray. Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I believe this is my last question. It's a little different one. And in that, so in the class, in my class right now, I have mostly graphic designers, but I also have some studio artists.
Hmm.
So in either where you currently are or in any of your past spots, was there an art department that, let's say, focused on photography or illustration or some other aspect that we might call traditional?
Yeah, I would say it's more a skill set that a designer would come in having. Like we have a girl on our team, she's like our graphic designer, but she does like our fun little so like this little like Bobby illustration on our packaging. She does all our like fun little like icons and stuff like that. She's done a lot of like Wacom illustrations for us and things in that realm. I think it's more tailoring your skill set. We have like an art director that handles photo shoots, but we hire like outsourcing people who are like photographers, or in like if they're a specific thing, like we freelance out a videographer, we freelance out our photographers and stuff like that. But I think people who are more studio artists, it's tailoring more to illustration, I would assume, or the skill sets that their studio like artistry performs. I would say a lot of where I'm at in my career, it's a lot more designers, but marketers and that bridge. But I would feel like somewhere at like a studio network or something would have more like illustration, more studio artistry in that world.
Yeah, I tend
Yeah.
to agree. It was kind of out of curiosity yeah. And so let me say this. I think that you've given us a lot of really nice comments and insight into not only your own career path, but ways that can be helpful for those starting out. And that's really generous of you to do that for us. Appreciate it very much. And I want to ask you this now. So since is it okay if I share your email address?
Oh,
with
yeah,
those in the
yeah, I was just
class?
gonna say, like, give my email out. People, like, you can link with me on LinkedIn, like reach out that way too. Please email me any questions. Like, I loved when people did this when I was in school. It's intimidating to like think you could reach out to them, but seriously, Felicity did it. So you all can reach out to me and like have a conversation with me. I'm open to anything. This is like, this stuff makes me really happy. So please, anything I can do.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let you go because I know you've got other things to be doing. But
Yeah,
again,
this is like,
think-
this is our office
yeah.
right now.
Oh,
All of
yeah,
that's.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
was actually, I thought there were some good thoughts you were talking about. At one point, I was going to ask you if you wanted to give us a little tour or something, but that we're going to save that for another time.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I'm going to let you go. So thank you very much,
Yeah,
Joe.
of course.
and
Yeah. Please,
stay in touch.
any questions anytime.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, guys.